goes to court. The jailed mother wearing civilian clothes, not her usual jailhouse jumpsuit, hauled in front of a judge this morning in Orlando. Now, Casey's lawyer arguing that defense experts need access to the scene where murdered Kaylee's skull was found.
By our forensic partners that plant growth is now growing again. It's very important that we see the scene because there may be vital evidence to that area. So,
all right, State, did you want to be heard on that?
We've had no contact with the family.
And again, I guess it's maybe the Hendricks family or a Mr. Hendricks. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, your motion's granted. You have access to the scene.
So what else happened in court? WOFL reporter Holly Bristow joins us live once again. Holly, what else did happen in court today?
Well, Greta, the defense did get the right. The judge said, okay, you can go ahead and inspect that property. The folks that own this property, they were given the opportunity to show up in court today. They didn't have at it and do what you need to do. They also said Texas EquiSearch does not have to hand over all the tips and all the names of the experts, or excuse me, the searchers that they had that went through that area off of Suburban Drive where Kaylee's remains were found. The judge basically felt that he didn't have the jurisdiction to order Texas EquiSearch to do so. Some of that question came in because the group is out of Texas and not over Florida, and the judge wasn't sure if he had the jurisdiction over that. Also, you remember that motion to recuse. It got a lot of attention this week. The defense was asking for the state attorney's office to be thrown off the case. They were claiming that somebody from the state attorney's office filed an anonymous complaint with the Florida Bar Association in an attempt of smearing Baez's name and in hopes of maybe getting Casey's lead attorney thrown off the case. The judge said no. He denied that motion as well. The other thing that they talked about was the defense's witness list. The state attorney's office had an issue with the way that Baez had initially filed that. He has since fixed the witness list, so that was pretty much a moot point in court today. And the other big thing that people were talking about today, there was a possibility that we were actually going to get a trial date before the end of court today, but that didn't happen. Instead, in about 45 to 60 days, we should know when the next status hearing will be, and that will be in 45 to 60 days. Greta?
So why no trial date? I mean, who's dragging his or her feet on this one?
You know, at this point, they had spoken about it in court, and Jose Baez said, you know, that there's been a mountain of discovery in this case. A lot of it I still haven't gotten yet. There's a lot of things that he needs to go through. That seemed to be the gist of it, but both sides did agree that they do believe that this case should be able to go to trial before the end of the year. And at that point in time, Jose Baez had mentioned possibly bringing up a change of venue, and both the state attorney's office and the judge both said, you know what, we think it's a little too premature for that, but Baez said, I'm going to file one pretty soon anyways. All
right, we have 30 seconds left. On another case, the civil case, Zenaida, the so-called nanny suing Casey. What's the latest on that?
Well, I just got this stack of paperwork from Morgan & Morgan. Those are the attorneys that are representing Zenaida Fernandez-Gonzalez. This is their notice of service of written interrogatories. Remember, they said they couldn't do the oral ones. So this is 29 questions that they have written down that they want Casey Anthony to sit down with her attorneys and go over. They range everything from, is this woman right here, the Zenaida Fernandez-Gonzalez that you claim you gave your daughter to have you ever seen this woman in a bathing suit, any kind of marks or tattoos or anything that you can describe her on? And did you know that somebody by the name of Zenaida Gonzalez had been at the Sawgrass apartments, those apartments where you claimed that you dropped your daughter off the day before that all happened, and that she was driving a car similar to the one you described, but with New York tags? Lots of questions, and I will tell you, I've spoken with Casey's civil attorney on this case, Jonathan Kaysen, and he said, you know what? She's not filling any of it out other than her name and her date of birth, and that's it. So this will likely go back to court. Greta?
Holly, thank you. Orlando defense attorney Diana Tennis was in the courtroom today and joins us live. Diana, it always looks so different in person than on TV. What was your impression looking at the defendant?
She seemed very subdued, really wasn't doing much throughout the proceeding. Honestly appeared slightly bored the way most criminal defendants do in court, because it's hard for most people to understand what everybody's talking about, and I think probably most of it went over her head too.
All right, now here's an interesting dynamic. There's a lawyer named Mark DeJame down there who represented Casey's parents, George and Cindy. They had some sort of falling out or some sort of problem. He left their representation. He now represents Equisearch, Tim Miller,
right.
and now the parents have written a letter to that I have a copy of to Tim Miller saying we want the documents about all the search. Is there a problem?
Well, the whole. It's just one more bizarre twist in a maze of bizarre twists. What is odd to me most of all is that the Anthonys, the grandparents, really seem to want to get at the truth. At least that's what their lawyer, Brad Conway, keeps saying. And yet he came in today and said that there was no problem with Mark Nejam having represented them prior and now representing Equisearch. But Mark Nejam was there on behalf of Equisearch trying to stop bringing this information that the Anthonys claim they want, and obviously their daughter very much wants to have brought forward. So the whole thing seems to be a very muddled potential conflict of interest, kind of from every angle.
All right, indeed, that seems rather bizarre. All right, now right now we're looking at Casey dressed in what we refer to as street clothes. Usually, street clothes are reserved for trial. Do they permit her to have street clothes because this is televised, so she doesn't look basically like a guilty person and poison the jury?
Actually, anytime you want to take clothes to a client who's incarcerated, you can take them over to the jail prior to the court date, and theoretically, you could have them dressed for any minor hearing you want to have them dressed for. I can understand why her lawyer would want to do that, and frankly, if my client were going to be on TV every time there was a hearing, I'd probably have them dress out too. That's what we call it. So I wasn't surprised to see that she was dressed for court. I'm kind of surprised that Judge Strickland hasn't figured out some way to allow them to not have her brought over for each and every hearing, because it really does seem to add to the circus atmosphere.
Indeed, but and apparently she doesn't want to be there, but she has a right to be there, so just another sort of interesting collateral issue to all this. Diana, thank you.